The Hero Indian Super League. Everyone played 2-3 games. Let's have a short review. On each team we will spend 1 minute maximum, 1.5 minutes to have a short insight in how they're doing. This is not the table, this is just team by team that we're going to review. Let's dive right into it. So we will start with ATK. ATK basically didn't made many changes this season, is playing the same way they were playing all out of the last season, and therefore there's not much to say. They play a 3-5-2, they have good strikers up front, very solid, got the enhancement with the Sandesh. So overall they're starting where they left off, and in 2 games 6 points, that says it all. So right away we move on to the next team. That is Jamshedpur. Jamshedpur made a rocky start. They play a 4-3-3 or a 4-1-4-1, doesn't matter. What is standing out for me is they have some solid centre backs, but they got a lot of goals conceded, and part of it, in my opinion, is the midfield is not very strong and not very solid. First game against Chennai, I remember Indian player get pushed off the ball. In other games, the last 2 games, I saw that the midfield is not really closing backward. This is only an impression, and of course they all need time to build their teams because of the pre-season. But Jamshedpur has still a lot of work to do. They have a great striker up front. Key point for me is improvement of the midfield. Let's move on. We go to Northeast United. Northeast United is the surprise of the season. Play a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-4-2 defensively actually, but what really stands out is the block, the 2 centre backs and the 2 holding midfielders. They are very solid. Does Northeast want to be champion? Then yeah, they depend highly on having strikers. Compare it with ATK. ATK Mohun Bagan has a very solid defense, but they have strikers up front who can finish it. And with Northeast, for me the question is, in the long run they can make it, many teams they make it difficult for them, but the strikers up front, are they good enough to finish it off? Their game plan on the ball is basically a long ball strategy or playing on the counter attack, and then you have to have strikers who finish that off. Overall, solid start, always very important. Every house has a good foundation. That's what Northeast started with, so let's see how they develop further up the league. We move on to FC Goa. FC Goa, the coach has big shoes to fill from last season with Ander Lobera. They play a 4-2-3-1. My biggest issue here is they have 3 midfielders, Lenny Rodriguez and Erubedia, I know very well. Noguera, I don't know that well. But my feeling is that all 3 midfielders are types that want to play towards the ball. There is no depth. There has to be more deep running. And beside that, Erubedia is the playmaker. I want him to play from the midfield, not every time dropping in. He takes that initiative, that is great, but they're missing out forward, in my opinion. Another issue is with Len Dungal on the wing. When you play counter football, he can play there as a winger, but overall I think he's more of a striker, so they are having a little bit problems on the wings. Brandon comes back, that brings more creativity, so let's see how that develops. And we move on to this case, Odisha. Odisha have only one big problem, in my opinion, is they brought in 3 foreigners, and how to fit them in. And those 3 foreigners, what I mean is the 3 strikers. If you bring 3 strikers, yeah, then the question is, how are you going to fit that in? I think when they're going to start with 2 strikers up front, in this case that will be bad for Marcelino. That could be a winning formula, or maybe even play a 4-4-2 diamond where Marcelino play behind the strikers, but then you need to have a stronger defensive block. Overall, the positive, first game Odisha was not good. They made progression, that's always important, and now the question is, how are they going to progress with the lineup as I just mentioned. Next in line, we go to Bengaluru. Bengaluru, I said it before, last season they depend too much on set pieces. They started the season in a 3-4-3, surprise to me. A big part is that the offset plays up front, and then the 2 players behind, whoever that might be, they need to support him. They play a long ball strategy. I asked the coach during one of the games why he was playing like that. Was that the plan? He said everything depended on Dimas, that is for me a little bit too much. A system does not depend on one player, but that is my personal opinion. Of course, Dimas coming back in the team brings more creativity, also the delivery from set pieces, so let's see how that develops. Brown is, in my opinion, more used to the league than Opset, and yeah, a lot of questions there. Last seasons, or the season that Bengaluru became champion, was with Miko, where they had and the good set pieces and Miko who created from himself. So overall, there has to be more creativity from Bengaluru, and of course the question is, which system are they going to use? We move on to Mumbai City. Mumbai, of course, new coach, new players. Lubera continued with his 4-2-3-1 in all the season that I seen him play. I never saw him play a different system. The issue here is Lefondre and Bart. Can they play together? I heard Lefondre say he can play from the wing. I'm sure he can, but it's not his ideal position in my opinion. Bomos, the first 2 games was not so great. Last game was much better. Having all said that, first game Mumbai lost. Second game just a lucky win through a penalty in the last minute, and the last game a convincing 3-0. But overall, I think it was more due to East Bengal that was not really doing that well. But in the end, you need to get those points, and I'm sure that Lubero has still a lot of work to fill in the right formula. They have some problems, in my opinion, on the wings. Rainier in the first game went out, and there they have some issues that they need to solve, I think. We go to Kerala Blasters, still not happy that I couldn't continue, but that's life of a football coach. They play a 4-2-3-1. My biggest question here is starting with a good centre-back duo in the back, solid, also good in the build-up, but the problem is the first game, the two wingers, very young, could not hold the ball. There was no penetration into the midfield. And my question here is, Hooper is a good striker, but he needs to have deliveries from the wings. Otherwise, yeah, I don't think he will be very useful. That's how I saw his games, and not this specific game, but video clips I saw of him. The other striker, I didn't see much till now, so let's see if he gets his chances. Sahel, I was highly criticized. He was not playing last season, although he played all games with me. He came inside at this season, 2 games in a row. He was not been put in the line. Let's hope he gets his time, because Sahel is, of course, a great addition to your team, and hopefully he will further get chances to fulfill his career. Big question for me, the striker and wingers for Kerala Blasters, and unfortunately they lost Sido, by the way, with an injury. That's a big blow. Let's move on to Chennai. Chennai, we can be very short. They made a good start against Kerala. Actually, they should have scored more goals. It's the only team that play a 4-4-2 diamond. Overall, it looks like a decent team. I didn't have high expectations, but they did much better than I expected. And overall, let's see how they develop further. Sylvester, I think, should be a little bit more involved. But overall, good start, looks decent, and I'm curious how they will develop further. Hyderabad is up next. Hyderabad has a lot of injuries. They had a disappointing last season. This season they are lining up with a new coach and a 4-2-3-1. Of course, up front with Aridani is a great striker, so the scoring ability is there. Subrata Paul, a good goalkeeper, unfortunately injured yesterday in the game. But overall, with all those injuries, they're still doing great. So let's hope they get their injuries fit and they keep developing. But overall, we can give them a solid, average, from 0 to 10, a 6 to 7 performance. And hopefully they will keep on developing and get their players fit. Then we go to the last one, East Bengal. That's a tricky one. East Bengal started the season with a new coach, Robbie Fowler, a 3-4-3 formation, where I was charmed by N. Magoma and Pilkington. Good players, but they're missing a striker. Balwan Singh is a favorite of mine. I really like this player, but to me, he's more a striker in a 2-striker system. So they're lacking there a little bit of problems. The Indian recruitment was done late. The coach didn't have any influence on that, so that will always be an issue. They also started late, so they will need to grow into in their game. And physically, I have the feeling, but that's an indication. I'm not 100% sure. Also, they started late. Is physically every time the second half they drop, not like very far, but you can see there is an issue there. The second game yesterday, after the last game they played a 4-2-3-1. Unfortunately, they lost Fox very quickly in the first minute, and that was a big defeat, 3-0 against Mumbai. And in my opinion, the right winger who became right wing back, he was a big issue there, or due to those first 2 goals that East Bengal conceded. So a lot of work to do there. That's it in a nutshell for all teams, and see you in the next one.